it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
A Nightmare on Elm Street isn't just one of the most successful horror franchises ever, it's practically a masterclass in how to make dream logic your brand. Over the decades, producers pumped out sequel after sequel, each one adding another bizarre layer to the twisted mythology of Freddy Krueger. And while the series mostly follows chronological order, Freddy's backstory is scattered across multiple movies, retcons, and fever dreams that make it about as easy to follow as a nightmare after eating expired gas station hot dogs. Still, despite all the dream demons, ghost nuns, and resurrection nonsense, it is possible to piece together a timeline of Freddy's life, death, and afterlife. And compared to the Friday the 13th timeline, this is practically Shakespeare. So grab your Hypnosil, keep the coffee pot running, and let's trace the entire blood-soaked history of Freddy Krueger, from the bastard son of 100 maniacs to the dream demon we know today. Our story starts with Amanda Krueger. Born in 1907, she becomes a nun under the name Sister Mary Helena and begins working at Hathaway House, an asylum for the criminally insane in Springwood, Ohio. In 1925, she's accidentally locked inside the asylum over the holidays, where she's attacked and assaulted by hundreds of inmates. The result? A child named Frederick Charles Krueger, born sometime around 1940, earning the haunting title, the bastard son of 100 maniacs. Fast forward to Freddy's early years, and it's basically the definition of a villain origin story. In Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare, we see flashbacks of his abusive foster father, played by Alice Cooper, because of course it was, always tormenting him because of how he came to be conceived, and a young Freddy experimenting with pain and cruelty. He even kills the class hamster. His psychopathic tendencies only grow, and when he finally had enough and completely snaps, he murders his foster father with a straight razor. Later, Freddy marries a woman named Loretta, and they have a daughter named Catherine. As far as anyone could tell, they live the American dream, a happy family in a nice house with a white picket fence. But when Loretta discovers Freddy's secret room where he kept his stash of murder weapons, including his homemade bladed glove, she confronts him. It turns out Freddy had actually been quenching his bloodlust by murdering the children in town, at least 20 of them, becoming known as the Springwood Slasher. When confronted, Freddy strangles her to death in front of their child. His daughter Catherine is placed in foster care and grows up as Maggie Burroughs, unaware of her father's true identity. Freddy is arrested, but due to a legal blunder where the prosecution and police forgot to sign a search warrant, the case was thrown out and he was released. In 1973, the enraged parents of Springwood take justice into their own hands. They trap Freddy in his boiler room, cover him in gasoline, and burn him alive. Freddy dies, but not before his soul is claimed by the dream demons, floating snake-like entities that offer him the power to live forever in the dreams of others. From that moment on, Freddy Krueger becomes something far worse than human. 13 years later, Freddy returns in the dreams of Elm Street's teenagers. The year is roughly 1986, as the first Nightmare on Elm Street implies it's been over a decade since Freddy's fiery demise at the hands of the parents. We meet Nancy Thompson, a smart and determined teen living at 1428 Elm Street, the same house that will become a recurring symbol of the franchise's cursed history. Strange things begin to happen around her. Her best friend Tina Gray experiences terrifying nightmares of a burned man with knives for fingers, and soon after, she's murdered in one of the most iconic horror scenes ever filmed, spinning and slashing her way across the ceiling as her helpless boyfriend watches. Freddy then turns his attention to Mancy and her boyfriend Glenn Lance, played by a young Johnny Depp in his breakout role. Glenn meets his end in another unforgettable death, a geyser of blood erupting from his bed, painting the ceiling in crimson. One by one, Nancy's friends fall victim to Freddy's dreamworld killings, until she realizes the only way to fight back is to confront him on his own turf. Using her intellect, courage, and sheer willpower, Nancy devises a plan to pull Freddy into the real world, proving that fear can be turned into strength. She succeeds, burning him once again just as her parents did years ago. But in true horror fashion, the victory feels hollow. The film ends with a haunting, dreamlike twist. Nancy's dead friends appear alive, only for Freddy's striped car roof to slam shut as they drive away, and her mother is pulled through a tiny window by his gloved hand. Freddy Krueger is not gone. He's simply waiting, lurking in the dreamscape. A year later, in 1987, the sequel Freddy's Revenge picks up with a new family moving into Nancy's old home, the cursed 1428 Elm Street. The story follows Jesse Walsh, a teenager struggling to adjust to his new surroundings while plagued by disturbing dreams of Freddy. But this time, Freddy's plan is different. Instead of attacking victims in their sleep, he tries to possess Jesse's body, using him as a vessel to kill in the waking world. It's a bold shift in tone. Freddy's Revenge trades the surreal dream logic of the first film for a psychological possession narrative, exploring repression, identity, and fear as Freddy manipulates Jesse's insecurities. The movie became infamous for its subtext of queer identity and internal conflict, themes that have since earned it cult status and critical reevaluation. In the end, it's Lisa, Jesse's friend and love interest, whose compassion and courage help him fight back. She confronts Freddy in a fiery showdown at an abandoned factory, the same type of boiler room where Freddy was burned alive years earlier. Jesse seems to overcome Freddy's control, emerging free, but the final scene with Freddy's claw bursting through a friend's chest on a school bus reminds us once again evil never really dies on Elm Street. By 1987, Freddy Krueger's legend has grown, both in the world of Elm Street and in real life. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors marks a triumphant return not only for franchise, but for Nancy Thompson herself. Now older and studying to become a psychiatric intern, Nancy works at Weston Hills Psychiatric Hospital, a facility housing troubled teens who all share one terrifying thing in common. They're haunted by the same man in their dreams, a burned figure with knives for fingers. Among them is Kristen Parker, played by Patricia Arquette, a resourceful girl who discovers she has the rare ability to pull others into her dreams. It's a power that turns out to be humanity's best shot at surviving Freddy. When Nancy meets Kristen and hears her describe the dream attack, she instantly knows Freddy's back. This is where the series fully embraces its supernatural mythology. Nancy helps the teens harness their inner strengths, their dream powers, allowing them to fight back inside their nightmares. There's Taryn, the punk rebel who becomes a warrior, Kincaid, who channels his rage into super strength, and Will, a wheelchair-bound gamer who transforms into a wizard within his dreams. They become the Dream Warriors, and together they turn Freddy's twisted domain into a battleground. Meanwhile, we learn more about Freddy's horrifying origin. Through Sister Mary Helena, a ghostly nun, we discover that Freddy was the bastard son of 100 maniacs, the result of his mother, Amanda Cooper, being assaulted by inmates in an asylum. This revelation cements Freddy's status not just as a killer, but as something born from trauma and evil itself. The film also introduces Dr. Neil Gordon, who teams up with Nancy to uncover Freddy's weakness, his remains. By finding and burying Freddy's bones, they hope to end his reign of terror once and for all. The climactic confrontation splits between the dream world and reality. Kristen and the Dream Warriors face Freddy head-on, while Nancy and Neil attempt to sanctify his remains in a junkyard, but Freddy doesn't go down quietly. In a moment that shocked audiences, Nancy is impaled by Freddy's glove, sacrificing herself to protect Kristen. It's a heartbreaking death for one of horror's most beloved heroines. As Neil finishes the ritual, Freddy's skeleton collapses into dust, and for a moment, peace returns to Elm Street. Of course, in true nightmare fashion, that peace is fleeting. The final shot lingers on a miniature house with its light flickering on, signaling that Freddy's spirit still lingers, feeding on fear, waiting for the next dreamer to fall asleep. After the tragic events of Dream Warriors, you'd think Freddy was finally gone for good, but this is Elm Street, and evil doesn't stay buried for long. 1988's A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master opens with the few surviving Dream Warriors, Kristen, Kincaid, and Joey, trying to move on. But Kristen still can't shake the nightmares. Deep down, she knows Freddy isn't finished. And she's right. When Kincaid dreams himself into the junkyard where Freddy's bones were buried, his dog accidentally urinates fire onto the ground. Yes, really? Resurrecting Freddy in one of the franchise's most bizarre but memorable moments. One by one, Freddy hunts down the remaining survivors, killing Kincaid and Joey in their dreams, leaving Kristen once again the last one standing. But before she dies, she unknowingly transfers her dream power, the ability to pull others into her dreams, to her friend Alice Johnson. Alice, a shy and daydream-prone high schooler, becomes the new protagonist and the Dream Master. As Freddy begins killing her friends one by one, each victim's traits and strengths are absorbed by Alice, gradually transforming her from timid outcast to a confident warrior. It's a clever evolution of the dream powers concept introduced in Dream Warriors. The film also sees Freddy at his most theatrical, cracking one-liners, morphing reality in cartoonish ways, and turning nightmares into twisted, surreal playgrounds. From a girl crushed into a roach motel to another devoured inside her waterbed, the Dream Master pushes practical effects and dream logic to their wildest limits. In the climax, Alice uses Freddy's own reflection against him, forcing him to face as many victims in a mirror, and their souls literally tear him apart. It's poetic, brutal, and almost biblical, the souls he destroyed reclaiming their revenge. Freddy is destroyed for now, but his return was inevitable. 1989's A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, the Dream Child continues Alice's story 1 year later. She's finally living a normal life until the nightmares start again. Only this time, Freddy isn't coming after her friends directly. He's found a new way back into the world through her unborn baby. Now, he uses Alice's pregnancy as a backdoor into the real world, manipulating her child's dreams to gain power before it's even born. Visually, The Dream Child is one of the darkest and most gothic entries in the series. Director Stephen Hopkins fills the screen with warped corridors, Victorian imagery, and grotesque set designs that make the film feel like a living nightmare. Freddy's kills are equally surreal. One victim is force-fed to death, another is turned into a living comic book character and slashed apart with Freddy's glove and hand-drawn style. Alice, now seasoned and fearless, teams up with the spirit of Amanda Krueger to stop him once again. In a symbolic showdown inside a dream cathedral, Amanda traps Freddy's demonic essence back inside the womb, locking him away with his own evil. Alice gives birth to a healthy baby boy, and for the moment the nightmare seems over. But as the final scene shows a group of children skipping rope, softly chanting Freddy's rhyme, it's clear that his legend and his curse still echo through Springwood. In Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare, the year is 1999, 10 years into the future from the film's release. The entire town of Springwood has been wiped clean of youth. Freddy has killed every single child and teenager in town, leaving behind only traumatized, half-insane adults haunted by their guilt and grief. It's a bleak dystopian setup for what was meant to be the final chapter. The story follows John Doe, a teenager who escapes Springwood with no memory of who he is, except for recurring nightmares of Freddy. He winds up at a youth shelter run by Maggie Burrows, a counselor who takes a personal interest in his case. Together, they return to Springwood to uncover the truth behind his lost identity. What they discover reshapes the mythos entirely. Maggie learns that she is actually Freddy Krueger's daughter, the little girl who witnessed his arrest and death decades earlier. Through flashbacks, we finally see Freddy's life before his murder spree, an abused child turned sadistic killer hunted down and burned alive by the parents of Elm Street. The film also reveals a new supernatural detail. Freddy's power comes from dream demons, ancient entities that granted him immortality in exchange for carrying out their chaos in the dream world. It's a campy but interesting attempt to explain how Freddy's evil transcends death. Freddy's Dead doubles down on the franchise's dark comedy and surreal tone. There's Freddy riding a broomstick, a Power Glove video game death, and even cameos from Tom Arnold and Roseanne Barr. But beneath the absurdity lies tragedy. Freddy's humanity is gone, his evil fully realized. In the climactic finale, Maggie faces her father in the real world, the first time someone has dragged Freddy entirely out of the dream realm since Nancy in the original. Armed with his glove, she drives it into his chest and detonates a pipe bomb, finally destroying him once and for all. Freddy's demonic laughter fades, and Maggie declares, "Freddy's dead," and for a moment he was. By 2003, fans had been clamoring for a face-off that had been teased for years, Freddy Krueger versus Jason Voorhees. The idea first surfaced in the early 90s, but it took nearly a decade and a lot of studio negotiations between New Line Cinema, which owned both franchises, to finally bring it to life. Jason is set years after the events of Freddy's Dead. Springwood has been scrubbed clean of Freddy's memory, literally. The town has covered up every trace of his existence to prevent people from fearing him, since fear is what gives Freddy power. Without that fear, Freddy is powerless, trapped in limbo. But Freddy is nothing if not resourceful. He finds a way back by resurrecting another horror legend, Jason Voorhees, the unstoppable killer from Friday the 13th. Freddy impersonates Jason's mother in his dreams, manipulating him into slaughtering teens on Elm Street so that the town will once again believe Freddy is back. It works. As the bodies pile up, people start whispering Freddy's name again, giving him power. But Jason doesn't stop killing, and soon Freddy realizes he's created a monster he can't control. What follows is the ultimate horror crossover: Freddy vs. Jason, Dream Demon vs. Machete-wielding brute, Nightmare logic versus raw physicality. The film is pure spectacle, part slasher, part wrestling match, and entirely self-aware. The final act takes place at Camp Crystal Lake, where Freddy and Jason tear each other apart in an explosive, blood-soaked finale. Freddy is decapitated, Jason sinks into the lake, and for a moment it's over, until Jason rises from the water holding Freddy's severed head, which winks at the camera. It's campy, it's chaotic, and it's exactly what fans wanted, the clash of two horror icons whose nightmares had haunted an entire generation. This is the last we have seen of Freddy Krueger in the canon timeline. There were also a couple movies that take place outside the main continuity. Wes Craven's New Nightmare 1994 takes place in the real world, where Freddy begins haunting the cast and crew of the original film, including actress Heather Langenkamp playing herself. This meta masterpiece reimagines Freddy as an ancient demon taking the form of his own movie character. Then there's the 2010 reboot starring Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger. It retells the original story with a darker tone and heavier realism, recasting Freddy as a more sadistic and grounded monster, including changing his backstory back to what Wes Craven originally intended, and making Freddy not just a child murderer, but also a child molester. It didn't land with fans, but it does offer an interesting what-if take on the franchise. And that's the complete A Nightmare on Elm Street timeline from 1907 to the early 2000s. It's messy, bloody, and completely over the top. You've got dream demons, ghost nuns, flaming dog pee, and at least 3 fake-out endings per movie. But that's the beauty of it. Freddy Krueger isn't just another slasher, he's horror's ultimate boogeyman. He doesn't need to chase you through the woods or stalk you with a machete. He waits until you fall asleep and makes your worst fears kill you from the inside out. Because in Freddy's world, there's only one rule: don't fall asleep.